Hi, I'm Tara from Marathon Mates. Welcome to episode number 33 of the Flying RuNR. Our special guest today is Jennifer Kellett, one of our biggest inspirations. Jen started running later in life, but has proven that age is no barrier when it comes to running fast. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Everyone, welcome back to the Flying RuNR podcast. On this episode, we are joined by our good marathon mate, Jen Kellett. We first met Jen in Tokyo in 2020 for the 2020 cancelled Tokyo marathon event. Since then, we've seen Jen run in many marathons and do some pretty amazing stuff over the years. Now, I'm not going to give Jen's age away just yet, but what I can say is that Jen came into marathon running later in life, and she's gone from strength to strength. Last year, she won her age category at the Gold Coast Marathon for both the half marathon on the Saturday and the full marathon the following day on the Sunday. So in doing so, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, you also set the Australian age records for your age for both events as well. Is that correct?
So for the half marathon, it was the age category 65 to 69. And for the marathon the next day, it was the single age record for someone 67, 68, sorry, 68. So it wasn't the actual category 65 to 69, which I do hope to break this year. That's on my wish list, which is 328 something. So I really had hoped to do that in Chicago, but of course, you know what happened there.
Now that's very impressive. And we're going to talk about that a lot more later on, because that to me is just absolutely amazing. So welcome, Jen. We're really excited to have you on our show tonight. So thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
And as always, I'm joined by Tim and Tony. Guys, how are you guys going? And more importantly, Tony, now that you're getting down to the pointy end of your Tokyo training, how's it all going for you and Sharon?
Yes, we're less than 3 weeks now, and it really is starting to hit home. We did a 30K on Saturday, and we nailed all our times that we wanted. So the worst injury that came from that is Sharon bit her tongue trying to quickly chew a block, and she was in tears for a little bit, and it hurt on the Sunday. Starting to get better today. So yeah, I think we're in a good space. We're exactly where we want to be. We have got Corral K at Tokyo, which we're now calling, thanks to Kim Tudjman, the OK Corral, because we're all going to be okay, and it's just getting exciting. We're just a couple of weeks before we head off again. So cool.
Absolutely. Jen, have you got any tips for Tony for Tokyo that you want to put in there? We've already given him ours, so we thought you might want to give him some of yours.
Well, the thing that worried me was being cool at the start, and they do have rules about not being able to discard clothing, but they actually did have a bin, a few bins, so that was okay. That was my biggest worry, was being freezing cold at the start. And but otherwise, it's a very wide road that you're running on most of the time. It's actually a good course. It's not as noisy. They're a little bit better managed. They're not so loud. But it's a great race. It really is. It's a great race. Yeah, you'll love it.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm actually looking forward to running in about 10 to 14 degrees as opposed to 29 to 33. But I get that sense that it's cold, so that's something to take on board. Yeah.
The biggest thing I found was the cross breeze in between the buildings. So when you go through intersections, you'll be covered by tall buildings on either side of you. Hit an intersection, and all of a sudden you cop a really cold breeze blowing through the intersection as well. So it's just something to be mindful of. But
just makes you run faster through those sections.
yeah,
100%. Interestingly, at Chicago, I purchased gloves because it was cold during, especially at the beginning, and I ended up, because I spent something like $24 on these gloves because, there was no cheap ones left once everyone realized it was going to be a cold morning. So I stuck them down the back of my pants. So I'm pretty certain they're going to take a trip with me to Tokyo as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Tim, I guess you can talk about what our week's been like for this week.
Yeah, so the last week or so we've been a bit disrupted. I've been working down the Gold Coast, as many know, if anyone's followed the social media feed, and our Out and Back episode during the week. But still got the training done. Actually threw in an extra run this week for myself, and I guess our long run on Sunday we knocked over 25 kilometers, and we finally got a little bit of cool weather. When we say cool weather, it was still sort of mid to high 20 degrees, but probably around about 60 or 70% humidity. So it was bearable. And we got our long run in, and we can just feel our bodies now starting to click. When you get into that longer training, all the previous weeks start to click, and your body just all of a sudden is used to running that distance, and it doesn't hurt as much, and it doesn't seem unbearable. So we're at that stage now, and had a really good run on our long run on Sunday just been. And park run for us this week, we were at Rocks Riverside, which is a river run along the Brisbane River here in the western suburbs of Brisbane. Really good course, really good vibe of people, over 500 runners on the course on the day. And we just really enjoyed ourselves there.
Well, I came 558th, I think it was, and I wasn't the last person by any means. So there was a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it was good. We had a good day and a good run, and caught up with some friends as usual. We can never go anywhere without running into somebody we know. And it was the same out there as well. So g'day to Reese and Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no,
that's what park run is, isn't it? It's just a social event for us. So
yeah, no, loved it. So that was our week.
Excellent. Jen, what are you training for at the moment?
I've got a few events coming up, but the major run this year is Comrades. So, and this year it's up. So training those up muscles. And that's on the 9th of June. And I'm going over with a friend of mine, Claire, who you met also in London.
Yes, we love Claire.
So we've been training. We train a couple of times a week together. And each Thursday now we're trying to increase our elevation just a little bit more. And hopefully, we'll make it.
You'll well and truly make it. You'll have no problems anytime, so which is good. So I guess we'll hand it over to Tony to insert that news soundtrack that we need now. Thanks, Tony. Perfect timing for a change. As we always do, we look around the world of running to bring you some news from the sport that we live and love, I guess. Tim, we've got some really big news that's just broken today, which is Monday that we're recording. I'll let you have a chat about that, which is really sad.
It's probably the biggest news in the running world for this year, and probably over the last couple of years as far as running news goes. And unfortunately, it's not good news. Kelvin Kiptum, the current men's world record holder, passed away over the last few days in Kenya in a road accident. 24 years of age, he was driving back from a high altitude training session with his coach and another runner in the vehicle. Unfortunately, the car veered off the road, and Kelvin and his coach passed away at the scene, and the other lady in the car is in serious injury in hospital being treated. So very tragic news. I know the rest of the running world is in mourning, I guess, at the moment for it. And I guess for me, the biggest loss out of this is not knowing what the full potential of Kelvin was. He's run 3 marathons, one in Valencia, one in London, and one in Chicago. He's got quicker in every race, has a habit of back-ending, or had a habit of back-ending all of his races with negative splits. And was a real genuine runner who could probably knock over that sub 2 hour marathon in a real race, in a true situation. So absolutely tragic. And I guess the other tragedy with that is we won't ever see Kelvin competing with Kipchoge at the Olympics or head to head where they're pushing each other. So yeah, it's a really tragic loss. And we now never get to see the true potential of what Kelvin had in those legs, which is pretty sad. I know Jen and I know Tony, you've sent me messages today about how tragic it is, but that hit me for 6 when that came through today.
Yeah, it was just so totally unexpected. His world record was ratified just Friday, I think. So,
Yep.
and then to see the news this morning just was unbelievable. And what I've also found interesting, Tim, is the communication on the Twitter platform. I still call it Twitter. And just the insinuations and, that Kenyan athletic community is really, you're either in one camp or the other camp. And, just to see some of the accusations bandied around over a tragedy like Kipton's passing is just really, really sad, unfortunately. But yeah, I, like many, would have been looking forward to Kipchoge v Kipton in Paris this year, but unfortunately, it's always going to be an argument now or a discussion next time we catch up in a pub, no doubt, who was truly the GOAT, and it's so sad.
There was a nice message that I saw Kipchoge put out with his condolences as well, and how sad he is about the whole situation as well, which was nice of him.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. I think I saw something the other day that Kenya has lost 4 top elite athletes in the last couple of years in tragic circumstances, and we tend to forget it is a third world country, bridging on probably second world level. Roads aren't as good conditions and the rest of it, but yeah, absolutely tragic that we don't get to see that potential ever again from Kelvin. So moving on, I guess, from that news, and no doubt by the time the podcast airs, there'll be more news on Kelvin's death and what happened and where things are at there. But moving on, I guess there's a couple of other bits of news I'd like to go through. One is Parkrun has removed all the course records off all their pages. You wouldn't believe how much of a storm that's caused. And again, there's 2 camps on this. There's the camps of I don't really care, which is probably where Tara and I sit.
Well, I'm not fast enough to care, so that's probably why.
And then there's another camp where maintaining the records should be there and people want them in place. And there's petitions and all sorts of things going around. So, yeah, there will no longer be an unofficial parkrun world record for men's and women's. There'll be no more course records published either. And I get the theory behind it. At the end of the day, parkrun is an event about everyone. It's not a race. It's not about records or anything like that. It's about everyone coming and challenging themselves and having a good time. But I also see the other side of the fence as well, where some of those records, even though they're unofficial, are quite meaningful to people, especially if they've achieved them themselves.
Jen, can I your input on that one, because you are a faster runner, obviously?
Yeah, I have got a couple of age records, but I didn't realise it was worldwide. I thought it was just going to be in England. So I didn't realise
even in Australia. Yeah, even in Australia, your local parkrun, if you go onto their homepage, doesn't have the course record on the bottom of the screen anymore.
Oh, well. Claire and I have been battling it out for a while.
Now you're just going to have to battle it out in Comrades instead, aren't you?
So that's the parkrun news. I guess the other couple of news around the world, Miami Marathon medals. This is an interesting story. So during they've just recently had their marathon. They designed these medals in the shape of a sun, so it's got nice little spiky bits on it. They're spinners, so the middle of it spins around, and it could look like, if it's going through X-rays at an airport, like a ninja throwing star, and could cause somebody some damage. So, as the event did publish beforehand, that they notified people and said, don't put them in your carry-on luggage. But unfortunately, a number of people did put them on their carry-on luggage out of Miami airport and had their medals confiscated. Now, the Miami Marathon has come back and said anyone who did have their medals confiscated will post them out to you. Good luck trying to post a medal like that to Australia, because Aussie Post would pick it up very quickly in the post and say it's Ninja throwing stars, and they're illegal here in Australia anyway. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Probably never the intent behind the medal design, but yeah, it's interesting, the unintended consequences.
Yeah,
very quickly with the news.
Pretty funny, but in some respects that they had no inkling of that when they were designing the medal, and then as you're saying, the unintended consequence. And we've travelled to marathons before where your only luggage is your carry-on luggage, so there would have been a range of runners there who probably heard the warning but still said, well, I'm not going to check my carry-on, and got caught with it, unfortunately. So yeah, it's put a smile on my face. I just thought there was some less than strategic thinking on the design of that medal, I'd say.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're in the boat that we never put our medals underneath the plane. We always put them on carry-on because we don't trust the luggage services around the world. And I can tell you, when we achieve that 6-star medal at the end of the year in New York, it will be with us all the way through customs and everything on carry-on.
100%.
Some other news this week out of Kenya as well. Another runner in Kenya, Michael Saruni, who's an 800-meter runner who made the finals in Tokyo, has been banned for 4 years for using a body double to take his drug tests. So he employed a doppelganger to hide in the washrooms underneath the stadium. After the racing, he began to cough very hard and very violently. He excused himself to go into the bathrooms, in which case he then swapped out his race bib number with a clean athlete who looked very similar. And then the doppelganger got tested as a result of that. He got caught. He's now got a 4-year ban. And we've talked about it previously about the state of Kenyan athletics as well around drug testing and the drug regime. So it is good that these guys are getting caught. I think last time we had a doctor who was doing really bad things and signing off on medical reports after the tests had been taken. Now we've got doppelgangers. So they really are trying everything in Kenya to get through. And I think, unfortunately, it just puts a stain against every other Kenyan athlete, or a little question mark above their names as to whether they're clean or not. And it's sad to see for the sport. We shouldn't be seeing that. The good thing is they're catching them, but the bad thing is it really does put a stain on the sport, which is not something we want to see. But it's an inventive way of doing a drug test anyway.
Once again, it brought a smile to my face, and I just thought, how stupid are you? But anyway.
And then I guess the last news, this is closer to the people in Australia, but it is a worldwide issue. We had a lady here in Australia, Samantha Murphy, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her. She's a female runner who went out for a run in central Victoria in southern Australia. Whilst she was out on the trail runs, something's happened to her, and we don't know what it is, but she's been missing now for a week. Police are now treating it as a possible homicide. And it's a pretty crappy world that we live in, where people can't go running, especially females. And I know, Tara, we talk about it regularly about your safety when you go running. I know it's probably something you worry about as well, Jen. It's something we should never be worried about, but unfortunately we have to, and it's more so, I guess, if you're female. I do see in some posts that I look at from America around women in America from time to time will carry concealed weapons on them. They'll carry knives. They'll carry other things to prevent attacks.
Guns. Mace.
Yeah, it's horrible, and we shouldn't live in a world where we fear to go out running by ourselves. Running should be fun. It's about mental health and well-being. And again, as I said, our thoughts and prayers go out to Samantha and her family.
And Jen, I guess you can relate to this one quite strongly, because you run in a rural community quite frequently by yourself as well. Do you ever feel unsafe or worried about yourself running when you're out there, or is it something that you're now taking into account?
I'm aware of it. And I often think I'm going to have to run pretty fast up hills, and hopefully by the time someone gets out of a car, because it would be someone in a car, because it's really quite remote. The we've got a dirt road, Doctor's Flat Road, where our property is. I feel fairly safe on that road, and I can go off road, and we've got lots of tracks off the main road, I mean, it's not the main road, but off the road that I can go to. But yeah, when I'm running on Wee Jasper Road and there's a lot of people coming out camping for the weekend, I'm obviously very wary. And when I hear it, and I never wear anything in my ears, I usually don't anyway out there, because it's just so lovely to listen to the birds and the noises. But I'm very wary of cars, and when I hear one, I sort of climb up on one or other side of the ridge on either side of the road. And so if it looks like they're going to stop, I can get my camera out and take a photo and send it quickly and hope it goes through and run. But yeah, I'm
we
aware
have to
of it.
think that way as females, isn't it? Like, I know when I go for a run, even here locally, I'm always constantly aware of what my surroundings are. However, just as a pre-warning to all females and males, always be aware of your surroundings. If you can't hear what is going on around you, perhaps take those earphones out. Don't look at your phone. Keep your awareness around you at all times. And this is for everyone around the world, not just Australia, not just females. That's everybody. There's cars, there's bikes, there's people that may not be aware of you as well. So you don't want to be a hit and run. You don't want to be an abduction, and you don't want to have something happen to you. So just be aware of all those things. So I guess we'll go on to our guest. Yes. As a proper guest. So Jen, as I said earlier, we met you first in 2020 for Tokyo, when we had a marathon that never was. We still went across, and we first met you there, which was so lovely. We've seen you run in many events since, and we're very lucky that we get to run in Chicago with you this year as well.
That was the one bonus for not finishing Chicago this year.
So fingers crossed we'll get the 6-star for you. Well, you'll get your 6-star. We'll just be there to celebrate. So welcome to our show. Thank you for being on here with us. I'm going to kick some things off, and we're just going to question to question. Feel free to answer however you feel. I want to know, when did you get into running and why?
So in my 30s, I did do a little bit of running. I took up triathlons for a while when my daughter started swimming. I got in the pool too, and then from there I started cycling, and then tried a few triathlons. I was reasonably good at swimming and reasonably good at cycling, but not very good at running. And after a while, I sort of did give up. And then when I was 59, my mum, I was going regularly to Melbourne to the Mornington Peninsula to visit my mum, who had she was in a nursing home down there after having a terrible stroke and was high dependent. So I went down every month, and I stayed with my sister-in-law. And when I was 59, she said to me, my sister-in-law said to me, she was going to do this thing called the Arthur Seat Challenge. And I said, oh, that sounds really fun. I'll make sure I'm here that weekend, and I'll, cheer you on. And then on the plane home, I thought, gee, if Soraya can do that, maybe I can do that. So I got off the phone, and I got off the plane, and rang her, and I said, Soraya, I'm going to do that with you. And so I went for my first jog in a long, long time. I had been walk jogging, the dog, and, so I had sort of kept fairly fit. But then went for my first run. And so I raced that when I was 60. So that was in October, I think, in 2015. And I came third. The lady that came first and the lady that came second were a fair way ahead of me. And then I came third, but there were about 40 in the race, so in my age group. So, I was pretty happy with that. And I thought, oh, maybe I can run. And then another friend, Elspeth in Canberra, she kept saying to me for ages, why don't you come to Parkrun? Come to Parkrun. So I did go to Parkrun, and I got totally hooked on Parkrun. I just loved it. It's bit of a cult. and I just thought it was great, and I met so many people through Parkrun. But in 2018, I think it was, I went back and I beat those two ladies in the Arthur Seat Challenge. So I was really pleased with myself and thought I was doing okay. And then I started doing parkrun, and then 2016 started running with a group called Wednesday Westers, and they were a lovely group. A lot of them ultra marathon runners. I mean, one of them does a race every year called Coast to Kosciuszko. That's 246 kilometres or something. She's done Badwater and all these other amazing races. And quite a few of the other runners are distance runners too, and one of them was an Iron Man woman. And I started running with them, but I started running at their pace, and they'd been running for a lot longer than me. So I was obviously running too hard for me, and started getting injuries. So, I went through a plethora of injuries for the first couple of years. I decided in early 2017 to do my first marathon. Never ever thought I'd do a marathon, and chose New York. And building up to that, I had a very, very nasty hip flexor tendinopathy and hamstring and gluteal tendinopathy, and wasn't sure whether I was going to do it. But once I got there, I thought they're going to have to drag me off this course, because I'm paid the money and I've come here and I've told everyone I'm going to do my first marathon. I'm going to at least try. And so I did. And it was so lovely when I got to 23 miles, because I knew I was going to finish. And so I finished that in just under 4.5 hours. That was my first marathon. And then what was it, 2018, I did Boston and Berlin. And Boston, I had another injury. I'm a gardener. I love gardening, and I was doing a lot of gardening and decided to move a heavy pot, and there was no one around to help me. So, of course, I did it on my own. Silly me, and ended up with back injury and sciatica for several months. And I still managed to do Boston. Oh, no, sorry. Boston and Berlin was 2019. 2018, I did Paris. So Paris was my second marathon, and I managed that in 4:01. And then I did Melbourne later that year and managed that in just under 4 hours, so 3:59:15 or something like that. And then the sciatica and Boston. So I still managed. I was really surprised that I managed Boston in 4:11, because I didn't think I thought I was just going to be walking a lot of it, but I still managed to run with some Panadol. And then Berlin, I ran in September that year, 2019, and I managed a time of 3:56. Can't remember how many seconds, but 3:56. Very cold, very wet. It was grueling, but I was very pleased to, get a few minutes under 4 hours. But and then of course the next one was going to be Tokyo, and what happened there. So my was with me, and we got there. They were umming and ahhing about whether it was going to be cancelled or not, and we decided to go. And of course, it was cancelled, but it was fortunate that we got to meet you. And so I still had a great time. We had 3 weeks in not just Tokyo, but all over Japan. That was really lovely. I was hoping, I had started running a little bit better, and I was hoping to run about 3:50 in Tokyo. But in one way, it's good that I didn't run it then, because I actually came first when I finally did run it in 2023.
Yes.
My training changed a lot. So I realised after getting these injuries that training, I was training too hard, trying to go out all the time. And the very first time I ran with Wednesday Westers, I did a PB for the 10K. That's crazy training, and running that fast with training. So I knew something wasn't right, and that no pain, no gain mentality was not the right way to go. And so I started researching a lot more and worked out that I had to train a lot smarter and not harder, and came across, I think the most influential person I came across was Stephen Seiler, and his principle of polarized training, 80-20. And from there, I started looking up everything on YouTube about Stephen Seiler, and I came across Floris Guillermin, and his talk with Stephen Seiler, and completely changed the way I approached running. And so I followed the the Stephen Seiler method of the 3 zones: the green zone, the yellow zone, and the red zone. So I would say 80 to 85, even sometimes 90% of my training is in the green zone, and then a little bit in the yellow zone, and then racing is generally the red zone. And that's really worked for me. So yeah. Yeah, so started breaking records, which is really, really good. Yeah.
So, Jen, what's been your favourite major? So you've just mapped out pretty much your journey, which is what I was going to talk about. But what's been your favourite one? And I guess also you're at Chicago last year and there was a hiccup. So did you want to
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, well, Chicago was very disappointing because I, having managed to get the Australian age record for my half marathon, I was really hoping that I could get that full marathon Australian age record, which was 3:28, and I was really feeling good, and I felt pretty confident. I didn't sort of sprout that to too many people, but I was inwardly confident that I could do that if everything went well on the day. But of course, not everything went well on the day. The day before, I got food poisoning, and through that night, the night before, and the morning of, I was really, really sick, but desperately wanted to get there, and kept thinking a miracle might happen. And yes, went with my hydrolyte and thinking, maybe once I start, I'll be okay. But I was feeling very despondent, and just was not in it. I felt really bad, really, just was not feeling all the excitement and the joy of it the way I should have been feeling it. And at the 5-6K mark, I tried a half a gel, and then it almost came up, and started feeling really woozy. So I made it to 8K and then called it quits. I just thought, no, I don't want to end up in hospital. And I thought, initially I thought, even if I just make it walking within the cutoff time, I could get my 6-star. But there's no way I could have done it. I had to pull out. So that was very disappointing.
Yeah, I can just imagine how devastating that must have been for you, because I was part of the group and we had a handful of, or less than a handful of people going for their 6 stars. And of course you were one of that.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was really disappointed for you. So I could just imagine how devastating you must have felt.
Yeah.
But,
On the day, I felt too sick to care.
Yeah.
But, as I got better, I was like, oh, damn. And yeah, but I'm looking forward to going back, and hopefully next time everything will be okay.
Absolutely.
It will. We'll get you through it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, the good thing is that I'll be there with you, and that'll be a big bonus.
We'll make it worthwhile afterwards, that's for sure. And I mean, I know you listen to us on the podcast, and one of our big things is always listen to your body and always listen to how you feel. And you're a physio yourself, so you're very much in tune with your body and how you feel. So that is one of your philosophies as well, on how you, and even your training and stuff. So I'm really, really proud of you for listening to your body and going, okay, I could have pushed through this, but it could have ended up a lot worse. And you've actually done what's best for you, maybe not in your head, but at that time you've done what's best for your body to make sure that you're preserving it for later on, not just that day.
Yeah, I mean, it is, after all, a running journey. It's not just about one race. So
that's
exactly it.
That's it. Yeah. So going back to Tony's question, what's been your favourite out of the? Well, you've done all 6 now. Essentially, you've been to all 6 majors. We haven't completed Chicago, but what's been your favourite?
I hoping it was going to be Chicago. I think probably New York, because it was my first marathon. The crowd were amazing. It was raining. Everyone had umbrellas, and just so noisy, and they were just cheering everyone on. I heard my name called repeatedly. It was really It was really amazing, and I think the crowd carried me. And you know, so I had that injury, but as I said, when I got to the 23 miles, it was just the most amazing feeling because I knew I was going to finish. And just to think I'm going to finish my first marathon, and it's in New York. So that was pretty amazing. But I guess my favorite non-major is Paris. That was just an amazing experience, you know, going through, you know, all the beautiful landmarks, and it was a beautiful day. You know, my daughter was with me, and one of my best friends was with me, and it was just amazing experience too. Yeah, but they all have something, you know. I really love Tokyo. Berlin was great. The run the day before was just an amazing experience.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. It was.
Did you ran to the airport though, didn't you, for that breakfast run, or did you go to the Olympic
No,
Stadium?
I did the stadium. Yeah, the stadium. So, you know, just seeing all the different countries were chanting different songs, and they had different dresses and costume, ending up in the stadium right next to the old one, and, you know, being fed ridiculously rich food at the end. Yeah, that was an amazing experience the day before, and it was good. I was so cold when I finished that marathon. You have to wear a chip. You've done Berlin? You've done Berlin?
Yeah.
Of course you have. You know, you have to reach down and get the chip off. It took me about 5 minutes to get down. It was so cold. And then 5 minutes.
I can relate to that.
I did it at a bench where they were handing out non-alcoholic beer, and they asked me if I wanted a cold beer, and I was like, no. It was freezing. And then I had to wander home and try and find my way home because I was just so cold. I was freezing. I actually got in the shower with all my clothes on. I was just too cold to take anything off.
Wow.
And just undressed in the shower.
They talk about Berlin being a flat city, but that run out to the stadium, it's all hills the whole way. It was quite different from the actual course that you run on for the marathon.
Big puddles. I mean, my shoes were soaking wet that year that I ran. Yeah.
So I guess you've got some really big plans happening for this year. We know you've got Comrades. Now that's an ultra marathon. Now that's 90 kilometers. They've got an uphill and a downhill course, and you said you're doing the uphill course this year. Now it can be just as hard to do the downhill course as it is for the uphill course, but how do you train for an ultra that is that long on terrain that you have sort of no fathom of what's going on?
It's a road race, and I've been doing some ultra trail runs. I don't particularly like trail run racing, but I think that they're very useful for training. I'm just very mindful of watching tree roots and rocks, and I feel like I can't concentrate on just running and speed or anything like that when I'm running on a trail. So I've done a few 50s and 56Ks now. So getting in elevation, I get in lots of elevation out where at the property. On Doctor's Flat Road, it's fairly wide dirt road, but I can, you know, usually get quite a bit of elevation in there. And also where I live in Hawker, there's a reserve, and Mount Painter. So that's where Claire and I have been training each Thursday for a while. And we'll just do repeats right at the top, because we think training at the top of Mount Painter will actually help with a little bit of altitude, even though it's not a lot, but a little bit of altitude training might just help us a little bit there. But yeah, so I decided I'd do Comrades because, you know, I run with ultramarathoners on Wednesday, and they're always at me, Jenny, you've got to do 100K, you know. And I said to Pam, I'm only going to do something like that if it's iconic. And of course, the Comrades was the very first ultramarathon ever, and yeah. So I thought that's an iconic.
But you can't get much more iconic than that one, can you?
So that's it. That's the one I want to do. And if I enjoy the experience, I'll go back and do next year and get the back-to-back medal.
So how do you mentally prepare yourself for 90 kilometers of running? I guess to me, I look at it and go, I get to 42 kilometers and I stop because that's the distance we get to. To think you got to run to 48 kilometers and then say I've only got a marathon to go.
Yeah.
Knowing it's out for 7, 8, 9, or probably 8, 9, 10 hours, knowing sort of at that sort of speed, it's a fair old training block mentally. How do you deal with that mentally? What's
Well, I haven't done it yet, so but I guess when I've done the 50s and the 56Ks, I've got to the 42 and haven't really thought, well, I've just finished a marathon. I've just thought, right, I've done the hard yards and just keep going. I think you just have to stay in the moment and not think too much about the the time ahead, and just break it up into short pieces. I often break things up into park runs. Only 4 park runs to go.
Yeah, we do that.
That's a measurement for when you're running long distance, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many park runs have you got?
2 kilometers into a marathon, and it's only 8 park runs to go.
Yeah, so I think I have the ability to focus. So I feel like, I don't think that'll be a real issue. I think I'm just going to try and enjoy the moment, every moment of it, and take each step as it comes, and hopefully get there.
Yeah, one of those really cool sayings is "run the mile you're in." So just stay in the moment and just work through it. So, Jen, no doubt you inspire many, many people. Tim and Tara speak about you so often as an inspiration to themselves. Who inspires you would be my question.
Well, like everyone, Kipchoge. He's, he really does. As far as looking at biomechanics, I watch his form very regularly, and listen to him very regularly. He's just an awesome human being, probably second to David Attenborough in my books.
Yes.
And yeah, he's a big inspiration, because I mean he's getting, I won't say he's not old, he's getting older, but still he's managing amazing things, and not thinking too much about age, but just, follow your dream and just do what you can do. And the way he focuses, and I've just learned so much from the way his whole attitude towards everything, and being true to yourself, and I just love him. So I guess he is. But I mean, there's quite a few other runners that inspire me. I mean, Pam Muston, who's one of our Wednesday Westers, she's an amazing runner, and she inspires me. But the whole group do. Claire, who I run with, she was one of my first inspirations, because my very first half marathon, I think, was in 2016, and I managed 1:58 and came second to her. I think it was the Australian Championships at the time too, and she did 1:44. So I was like, oh my God, we're the same age, and look at you. I want to be like you. So there's
And you and Claire are both very, very humble, down to earth people as well. You both suit each other, like you both really gel well together. She's a very lovely person, and she got her 6 stars in London, and I remember her giving out her medal. It's just like, oh yeah, you want to have a look, It's none of this whole, oh no, it's mine. Like, she's just like, oh yeah, if you want to have a look, you go, yeah, chuck it on, She's very, very humble, down to earth, very much like you. Really, so you've got some good inspiration behind you.
In London, so I came 5th and she came 6th in our age group, and we both broke the Australian single age record for 68. So that was pretty cool.
Now, we talked a little bit about Gold Coast last year, and your performance down there was just awesome. We ran the double, as did you, and I can't believe the times you did, and I can't believe the records you set. So I guess let's recap that weekend a little bit for our listeners. So the weekend starts off on a Saturday with a half marathon, and What was your time again? About 1 hour 35,
1:37:21 or something. 1:37:21, I think. Yeah.
which was a new age category record for running in Australia for 65 to 70, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just phenomenal. And then you backed it up the next day with a marathon, and you ran the marathon in 3 hours.
I don't know where that came from. About a month before, I thought, well, it's about a year, it's about a year now till Comrades. So I thought, I'm going to have to start doing some back-to-back runs. And then the seed got planted in my head, I could do back-to-back, I could do half marathon and then the marathon at the Gold Coast. That could start my training for the Comrades.
We got in your head.
Yeah, so it was just growing, this great big seed was growing in my head, and I wasn't going to tell anybody, especially my husband. and then anyway, the seed just grew to a pumpkin. It was just sitting in my head, and so I told Claire. I said, Claire, I'm going to do the marathon, but it's just going to be a training run, just a training run. And I thought, I just had no expectations really at all. And I did want to do really well in the half marathon, because I actually broke a 12-year-old Gold Coast half marathon record for my age the year before by 3 seconds. And I thought, this year I don't want to do it by 3 seconds. I want it to be really serious. But I didn't think it was going to be that serious. And so I was just blown away that I managed that time, because I think my previous best time was just under 140 or something, around about 140. And so that was a total shock to get 137. And then I thought, oh, tomorrow, if I can manage 4.5, 5 hours, I'll be, happy. But I went back after the half marathon, and I alternated between cool pool, swimming, breaststroke, spa, hot spa, cool pool, swimming, breaststroke, hot spa. And I did that several times, and had a pretty good night's sleep, because I wasn't really worried about it. I kept thinking, it's just a training run, and got up in the morning and jogged up and down on the spot, and felt, I don't feel sore or anything. And so I thought, just see what happens. So I started, and I had to be very careful that I was a bit worried I'd go out too fast and then lose it at the end. So I have to keep pulling myself back a little bit. And then towards the end, I thought, I'm supposed to start feeling, bad by now. And I wasn't. So, yeah, I was just pretty shocked. I shocked myself more than anyone to pull off that time. But I was only 15 seconds off the Gold Coast Marathon record for my age for that. So
I know that you absolutely blew us out of the water, because Tim and I had caught up with you on the Friday before the Saturday half marathon, and you're like, I'm going to go hard on the half marathon. Tara, I might run the marathon with you. I might be about your speed. And I was like, Jen, you don't want to run my speed. You're like, no, I just want to run, nice and easy. Do you want to tell us what time you actually did for that marathon?
It was 3:39:03 or something like that. 3:39.
Yeah. Very, very close to my, 4.5 to 5 hour marathons, Jen. Yep, so close.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I think part of it might have been because I was so relaxed, and I've no idea. I can't explain it, but I hope I can do it again. Yeah.
At 67 years of age, that was an awesome effort last year, and it's definitely something that is inspiring. That it doesn't matter how old you are, there's always challenges out there, and there's always records in your age category or your age that you can.
That's so true, because a lot of the ultras now, I come both first and last in my age category, because there's no one else in my age category.
Tell anybody else, there's nobody else, and just say I'm first.
But it's nice. So that recently, I did the 56K 2 bays in Victoria in January, on the 14th of January, and Claire, unfortunately, Claire didn't finish. She did finish it, but she didn't make the cutoff time. But it was a pretty tough run, and I'd done it twice before, so I sort of knew what I was up for. But I did a 38-minute PB in that course. But what was really important to me was that not the fact that I, obviously won my age group, but that I came 21st female out of 53 and 104th out of 272 altogether. So it wasn't my age, like I was actually competing with everyone else younger than me, and I actually performed reasonably well compared to everyone else younger than me. So that gives me a real thrill. It gives me a real thrill to think, I just try not to think about the age thing, and just train and do the best I can. And it's good. Same with the Gold Coast 50. Yeah, I beat all the men too. There were quite a few in that in my age category, and quite a few men, but and it was a bit of a thrill to beat the men.
And you looked very, very strong finishing that. When Tim and I saw you finishing that one, it was, you looked extremely strong. So
it was good. I really enjoyed it.
It was very hot day.
I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I do prefer road racing to the trails, and I really, really enjoyed that one. And as soon as I was able to, I registered for the next year, for this year. Do you want me to talk about heart rate?
Math training, if that's all right.
So I don't strictly train math. So the maffetone, which means maximal aerobic function, and coincidentally was designed by Phil Maffetone, so some people think it refers to his name. So it's a holistic approach to running, and I think he's a chiropractor by training profession, but he came up with this holistic method of training according to heart rate, and so he believed that the 220 minus your age and then running 60% of that was not accurate, and came up with a formula, 180 minus your age, which for me would be 112 at the rate that I should be training for. But because of my fitness and because I do have a high maximum heart rate, my level 1, I train around 123, a heart rate of 123. But I pretty much follow more Stephen Seiler's 80-20 principle or 85-15 principle. And I have found it amazing. Like I almost never look at my pace anymore. I look at my heart rate. And so Wednesdays, I don't always look at my heart rate when I'm running with the group, but I'm fit enough to run well with them now. But on some days, if I feel like I'm not up to Pam's speed, because she just has one speed, then Claire and I often both will just drop off. But some days, I'll be right up there and feel fine, and my heart rate will be, 130, 135 max. But in the old days, I was running around 160, 165 for those Wednesday West runs. So I almost never get above 135 now, unless I'm deliberately doing an interval training or an uphill run or something like that. So most of my runs now are very low heart rate. And people often comment, how can you run with a heart rate so low and run so slow and then run so fast? But it's making what I call making mighty mitochondria, and building the capillaries. You're just building that aerobic base, that aerobic engine, and stoking the fire, and it works for me. So yeah. And the other thing that's helped me too is strength training. So once I had always done a bit of strength training, but I really got stuck into strength training in the last few years. And I can lift more than my body weight now. I just squat 60 kilograms several times a week. And so that really helped.
Dynamo. Yeah. You are a dynamo, Jen. So that's all I can say now. Now, I think we've got a whole episode there around that low heart rate method, because I think there's so much to explore there, and I'm fascinated by it. But I'm more fascinated about this gin distillery that you run with your daughter. So tell
That's
us
my
a
rocket
little
fuel.
bit. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
In 2018, I sold my practice that I'd had for nearly 30 years. I built it up from scratch, and only just retired from there at the end of last year. Stayed working there for the new owners. But I bought a property in Wee Jasper, which is about 52 kilometres, I think, from Yass, and inland from Yass, and bought a 600 hectare property. And on that little property, or big property, or medium property, or whatever, little compared to some of them out there was a little dairy shed, beautiful big wool shed and a little dairy shed. And I just jokingly said to my daughter one day, wouldn't it be nice to have a little gin distillery? Because, you know, every Friday after work, my girlfriend and I would go for a gin and tonic, or a dark and stormy in winter at the local, and and then I'd come home and John would often have a gin and tonic for me ready, whether I wanted it or not. And so I got very used to tonic.
You're trending well.
And anyway, I don't know. It just sort of morphed. It became an idea, and then I think Shannon must have spoken to council about the idea, and they of course said no, you can't have a distillery there. And all the locals thought it was a fabulous idea, so they said, well, you know, build it in the little hamlet. And it was a village at the time. There was a church. The church got sold, so now it's a hamlet. And so we had the opportunity to buy a 3/4 acre block of land just over the Wee Jasper Bridge on the left. So we're the very first business the only business really in Wee Jasper. And we consulted with council, and they told us we had to have an architect design it. And I just thought we were going to have this shed, you know, and with a distillery and just sell gin, but it ended up being a beautiful 2 buildings, and we make brandy, we make gin, lots of different types of gin now, and we're going to make whiskey soon. We make all the cellos, and I've just made 30 litres of syrup for our fig jam gin, because figs are in season, and Shannon's just picked 12 kilos as a start for the bramble gin, which is blackcurrant gin. And so it just grew, and it grew. So once we had the idea, we went to Tasmania, visited lots of distilleries, did the Tasmanian Whisky Academy Fundamentals of Distillation, did the Adelaide University Fundamentals of Distillation. Whenever I went out anywhere around the world, I visited as many distilleries as I could. So we did, you know, learn a lot. It took 4 or 5 years, and yeah, it just grew, and yeah. Yeah.
So for our listeners, Wee Jasper Distillery, very, very good gin if you want some good gin.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've also got your own running journey that you can let other people follow you on as well. Is that on Instagram?
Yeah, so I started I started an Instagram site called Running from Old Age. So I have to get faster. And so I'm on Strava, but Running from Old Age is my running, where I put mainly my running things. Otherwise, it's just my name on Jenny, yeah, on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
Excellent. So for all our listeners that want to follow Jen's running journey, jump onto Instagram and Running from Old Age. Now, Jen, we always do this thing called the Fast 6. This is Tony's section. So the 6 obviously relates to the 6-star journey. So we'll hand it over to Tony and he'll ask you the questions.
So, Jen, these are quick questions and even quicker answers. So, and hopefully they'll be given the Tim approval, as he normally makes a comment on 1 or 2. So let's see how we go. So podcasts or music?
I knew you were going to ask this, and I can't be quick because I love both, and it just depends on my mood.
Best running advice given to you?
Yeah, train slower and be consistent. and be committed. And I think consistency is key. Just, determine how many days you want to train, stick to that, start off slow, don't go too fast. And yeah, that's probably
Excellent.
yeah.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Again, probably do some research, look at various methods of running. Again, start slow, and don't start with a group that runs way too fast like I did. Just try and find your groove, I think, and take it easy, build up slowly, and as Tara always says, listen to your body, and if you feel like you've done it too tough, then take some time off and get back into it.
Uphill or downhill?
Uphill, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually don't mind both on a road. I don't like downhill on a trail. Hate it. But uphill, yeah. So I'm hoping I am hoping to do the downhill next year if everything goes well in Comrades this year.
You have to love uphill. You're running 90 kilometres uphill in Comrades shortly, so you have to love it.
Yeah. Gels or blocks?
Gels.
Okay. And last one, favourite shoes to run in?
I have Vaporfly for anything, Nike Vaporfly for anything under 10K. Metaspeed, ASICS Metaspeed for half marathon to marathon. Topo trail runners for trail, and for long distance training, I don't like to ruin my ASICS Metaspeed, so I just use Topo. They've got a wide toe box, and that's what's good about the Metaspeed too, is they've got a wide toe box, and my toes tend to splay a little bit because I've got very long toes, and they just seem to suit me. Yeah, I think it's your own journey when it comes to shoes. You just got to find out what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear a lot of good things about the Metaspeed. So, and interestingly, on our Traveling Fit Tokyo group, I posted in about what shoes are you wearing, and I posted a photo of mine that I'm wearing for the marathon, and the Metaspeeds are in there. So you always find someone who likes the Metaspeed.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're about to finish up. But before we do, we always have Tim's tip. So go ahead, and I'll try not to interrupt you.
And just a shout out, because on Instagram today, and thank you, Steph, for saying that it's her favorite section of the podcast, Tim's tip.
Oh, Tim's, Steph Jensen's big yell out there. Super Steph.
Well done. Thank you.
Cult following, mate.
I'll have to give you that little money reward later on when I send it. The question is it better than Tim's joke? So anyway, we'll see that another day.
Or Tim's tongue.
Yeah, that's the usual
one. All right, so taking a little bit of a note, I guess, from what Jen was saying, my tip is about slowing things down in your training. Running slower in your training can be very beneficial in the longer term. It's less impactful on the body. It can help build up your endurance, and it works your muscles in a different way. Running with low heart rate over time means that you aren't stressing your body as much over the course of a run, but also on race day, your body is used to running at a lower speed. Therefore, the fatigue and the drop-off that we all get towards the end is not typically there if you're running a bit slower. Typically, runners will who run slower have less injuries, but it can take some time mentally to get used to running slower. I know I run a lot slower with Tara. I'm probably in that zone 1 and zone 2 most of my long runs that I do with Tara. Mentally, it can take a long time to get used to running slower. I'm lucky I've got good company, but it does, once you get your head around it, it actually does work, and it does lead to less injuries. It helps speed up your times, and I do really notice the benefits when I do it as well. So maybe give it a try. As Jen said, do your research on it as well. Look at some of the people out there that are promoting it. There are some good sites, websites, and YouTube channels out there that talk about running slower. But it is good for your body. It builds up aerobic rather than anaerobic endurance as well. So
there's a great TED talk called given by Stephen Seiler, and it's only 15 minutes, and it's about how normal people can run like the world's best, and it's really worth listening to. Yeah,
definitely, 100% agree. So yeah, do yourself a favor, try running slow for a while, particularly if you're in a heavy load period as well. It's good just to back it off for a little while, and having a week of lesser impact on your body is still a good thing as well. But obviously, the longer term you do it, the better it is for your health and well-being as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. Alrighty, so this episode is about to end, but before we do that, we're going to just hand it over to Tony to talk about next week.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. You may recall a couple of weeks back, Tara talked about the following episode was going to be about parkrun, and I suggested that maybe there might be a shift. Well, we're finally back to it. So because as you know, last week we spoke to Kel Walker, running coach, and so we slotted him in before parkrun. So this time we're talking all things parkrun, and which is going to be really interesting for someone like myself who doesn't do parkrun. But I'm sure you've heard Tim and Tara talk about their parkrun journey and tourism many times. So next week we're going to unpack it even more. We'll talk about how it all started, where you can join, what's involved, where you can parkrun around the world. And it's always interesting when you're in a group of traveling fit people and you're on Facebook and you're just about prepping for going overseas to run any of the world majors, and there's always someone says, who's up for doing parkrun the day before? Always.
Yeah, that would be Tim.
So it's going to be an episode not to miss. So how can you incorporate parkrun into your weekly routine? We are going to have so much fun, and I'm going to learn something, and maybe when I come back from Tokyo I'll finally get to make my debut at parkrun. So we'll see.
Hey, Jen, how good was Tim's terrific tour of parkrun in Japan? You got to say that was a good trip.
It was excellent. I think we doubled the parkrun numbers for that parkrun.
No, it's one of those things that you're right, Tony. Everyone, there's groups that do parkrun and there's groups that don't, but it is something that's definitely worth talking about.
It's always an adventure, especially when you're overseas. Yeah.
We've done lots of overseas ones with you now, haven't we, Jen?
Yeah.
So yep, we'll definitely be seeing what we can do. And is there anything in Chicago?
There is, but it's a fair way away. It's quite a way away. It's parkrun's not as big in America as it is in Europe and Australia for some reason.
We'll find a way.
Boston I did twice. There's parkrun.
Jamaica one.
Yeah, that was an easy one to get to.
I think
Chicago looked up a fair way away.
I think the effort you all put in to do the London parkrun bushy, and in the time of a train strike or public transport,
was amazing.
Was just the planning was inspirational. Let alone what you guys did. It was just incredible. So crazy.
Two trains, a double-decker bus, and a 2-kilometre walk to the parkrun start.
It was a great experience. I'm so glad I got to do it.
Well, that wraps up our episode for tonight anyway. Jen, thank you once again for joining us. We really appreciate you. Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us. Can't wait to catch up with you again. That's going to be soon for the GC30 in person anyway. Hopefully tonight hasn't been as nerve-wracking for you as what you thought it was going to be, so you did well. Video of this episode will be available at Spotify, YouTube, and audio will be on Apple, Amazon, and Google Podcasts, although Tony was saying last week that Google Podcasts may be going, so don't quote me on that, and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.
Bye.
Bye.